Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. Today is Monday, February 24th. I'm your host, Josh Newberg, and we have a lot to cover today. So make sure you are subscribed to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, the On3 Recruits channel. All right, speaking of best, let's bring on On3 national analyst Steve Wiltfong, and we got to get to it because Jared Curtis, On3's number one quarterback, cut his list of over 36 offers down to a final two. Steve, we got Oregon and we got Georgia. How do we get down to these two finalists?
Well, I talked to Jared on Saturday, and he said he felt like both programs are great fits for him. Both are schools that he has a chance to play early. He has a really good relationship with each offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo at Georgia, Will Stein at Oregon. Loves the collection of talent that both programs have around him on the offensive line, in those receivers and running back rooms, and at tight end. Feels like he could really flourish. And I think playing early is a big point of emphasis for Jared Curtis. Sees an opportunity to seize some early playing time at both Georgia and Oregon. Great connection with the coaching staffs. Loves the guys that he could potentially be playing with. And he's down to these two programs. He's got official visits to Oregon for June 6th, Georgia for June 13th. I don't even know if this is going to get to the officials, Josh, before it's decided.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What do you think the chances are that this recruitment ends before any of these official visits are taken?
I think it's strong. He's been to Oregon a couple times. He's been to Georgia several times. And he's very familiar with both of these programs, and he's someone that could help continue to build these recruiting classes. Oregon's at number one right now in the On3 recruiting standings. And we know Georgia, when it's all said and done, they're going to push into that top five and take a swing at the number one class. Jared Curtis would certainly be big in those regards. But he's having a lot of conversations with his family, talking with his representation, talking to these staffs regularly. These staffs are talking to his family regularly. So I think he's got all the information that he needs. It's now just a matter of finding the one, making sure it's right, and then announcing his plans.
Steve, you got sources on all sides of this. You have a great relationship with Jared Curtis and his family. We don't know exactly when the decision is going to come, but who, in your opinion, has the edge right now as it stands with this top two?
Well, Oregon's a program that's been trending, particularly since he decommitted from Georgia in the fall, but he has been back to Georgia since then. And as he gets closer to making his decision and all the cards are getting put on the table, I think more face cards keep coming up for Georgia. So even if Oregon has the momentum, Georgia's still right there at the table playing cards, and they're the one that could come up ace of spades at the end here.
All right, we'll see. You guys are the real recruiting experts. Put your opinion in the comment section below. Is Jared Curtis, the number one quarterback, going to play for Kirby Smart or Dan Lanning? Let us know. Let's talk some USC recruiting. Over the weekend, the Trojans added their QB. They flipped Jonas Williams from Oregon. They also added a big commitment in edge Samodi Catalanga. And now, Steve, it seems like the Trojans are red hot on the trail right now. What are recruits saying about USC?
Well, they're gushing about this program right now. The Trojans are right on Oregon's heels right now, have the number 2 recruiting class in the country. They flipped Jonas Williams from Oregon over the weekend, and they beat Notre Dame for another pivotal recruit, Samodi Catalanga, a top 100 edge rusher from Rancho Santa Margarita, California, Santa Margarita Catholic. So 2 pivotal wins for USC as they try and build this program up. They obviously add a top 100 guy to their quarterback room, and then a key piece to their front seven, someone that can really get after the quarterback, someone with some high upside traits. 2 of their top targets on the board against 2 of the programs that they are up against on the field year in and year out. And I like where USC stands with a few more guys moving forward. Logged 2 new On3 RPMs in favor of the Trojans since they landed these guys over the weekend. You have On3 industry 4-star receiver Trent Mosley, who's out of Santa Margarita Catholic as well. His parents both played sports at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is in the top 2. His mom, one of the best soccer players in Notre Dame history. His dad, Emmett, played for the Irish. Stanford's involved. But I like the way this one's trending for USC. He was on USC's campus earlier this month. Malachi Lee, the number one prospect in Hawaii. He's a top 100 recruit, the nation's number 8 offensive tackle per the On3 industry. He's got a top 6. I think USC and Michigan are closer to the top there. I like where the Trojans stand for Malachi Lee. So my On3 RPM is on the Trojans for him as well. And USC, they are continuing to battle Oregon for some guys in this class. Tamuhini Topulai is a defensive lineman from Mater Dei. He's committed to the Ducks. He was back at USC's campus earlier this month. I think USC is picking up steam in that recruitment, and they'll have a chance to flip him just like they flipped Jonas Williams from Dan Lanning and company.
You know, Steve, last year around this time, more like March, USC was surging up the rankings, but the core of the class was built around top prospects from the state of Georgia, around the country. Should USC fans be feeling a little extra confident around this one because it's primarily built from the state of California?
Well, I think there's just a lot more excitement around USC in general, Josh. The win at the end of the season, they have their quarterback room in order. They're recruiting that position at a high level. This defensive staff is in place for a second year. There's just a lot of things to be excited about. They're getting their NIL in order at USC. They're very competitive from a financial standpoint with top targets. And it's starting to resonate on the recruiting trail with these top recruits. And yes, they are doing a good job of locking down guys in state like the number one corner in the country, RJ Sermons, but they are still recruiting nationally. They have Xavier Griffin in the fold. He's the number 2 linebacker in the country. Jonas Williams is the top quarterback in the Midwest. Sean Austin's a running back from Ohio. There's a lot of names from Texas that they would like to add this cycle, from Ethan Booby Feaster to Jalen Lott at the receiver position, just to name a couple of them. So they're recruiting nationally, but they're doing well in state. But more than anything, they got to play well this fall. If they play well this fall, I think from an NIL standpoint and from a relationship standpoint, USC is very strong. Their coaches are doing a great job of connecting with these guys, and these guys are seeing tremendous opportunity off the field in Los Angeles from an NIL standpoint.
The staff's together. If they play well, is this a year where a guy like a 5-star wide receiver, Chris Henry Jr., is an attainable flip?
Well, I think Chris Henry Jr., there's still a lot of runway there that they have to run down to flip him. He's been committed to Ohio State since 2023, and the Buckeyes are going to be hard to beat. And they also have to leapfrog Oregon for him as well. And then Miami's the 4th school in the mix. But from a receiver standpoint, they still have a chance to sign a great class with what's already in the fold. Trent Mosley, I like where they stand with him, in-state receiver. They're battling Notre Dame and Stanford. Booby Feaster from DeSoto, Texas. He's high on USC, LSU, and Texas A&M, to name a few. Jalen Lott is a blue chipper that they love. He is an explosive guy that's got 2 sides of the ball ability. He's targeting a visit to USC in the spring. And then Vance Spafford's another receiver in-state committed to Georgia that visited USC earlier this month that the Trojans are keeping warm. So maybe it's not Chris Henry Jr., but I think USC is not going to have their shortage of playmakers in this class. Deshaun Rideau's a running back that they're trending for. They already have Sean Austin committed, and Mark Bowman's a tight end that they're trying to get involved with from in-state. Tafuna, committed to Texas A&M, is another one that they're going to have a shot to land. And then they offered a kid from Hawaii, Taimani Purcell, a tight end from Hawaii that's shot up their board that they're going to be in the mix for as well.
All right, great intel there, Steve. Let's wrap up this segment by kind of tying together the loose ends on the quarterback board. Like we said, on Friday, Jonas Williams, a top 10 quarterback, flips his commitment from Oregon to USC. But what does this mean for Ryder Lyons? He's also an elite quarterback that we've talked a lot about on this channel in terms of him taking his mission over this summer, so him really kind of being a 2027 prospect. So if with Jonas Williams on board, is Ryder Lyons still a target for USC?
Absolutely. As we've talked about in past episodes and written about it on 3, he's taking an LDS mission following his senior year of high school, which makes him a 2027 recruit. He's USC's top target in 2027. Oregon is going to give them all they can handle in this recruitment. And if Oregon does not land Jared Curtis, it'll be interesting to see who they pivot to in 2026. but maybe that even improves their chances even more for Ryder Lyons as he sees a clearer path to make an impact when he would get to Eugene. But Oregon's very much in that one regardless. USC, BYU, Michigan, Arizona, some of the other contenders for Ryder Lyons.
Let's talk a little Texas recruiting. The Longhorns added a new 5-star. No, there isn't a big recruitment that you missed. Quarterback Diabell, newly minted 5-star here at On3. Steve, let's talk about him. First of all, what type of player is Diabell now that you've got to see him for 2+ years now?
Well, Diabell has continued to get better every year, Josh. As a junior, he completed over 70% of his passes, threw for 2,597 yards and 29 touchdowns. And he really added a running element to his game. Went from just 86 yards as a sophomore to 561 as a junior. 5 rushing scores, one of the top dual threat quarterbacks in the country, regardless of graduation year. He's accurate with the football. He can make all the throws. He can stand in the pocket, buy some extra time, sprays the football all over the field, and again, can extend plays, get you chunk yardage with his legs. He's the perfect fit for Steve Sarkisian and his offense. Obviously, Arch Manning takes over the reins this year, but maybe Arch Manning only needs 1 year. Then you get Diabell on campus next year as a true freshman. He'll come in physically ready to push for time. So we'll see what happens with Diabell, but we love him right now. Obviously, new 5-star and on 3.
And what type of recruiter is he for the Longhorns? We're trying to get a feel for this class early in the cycle. Is Diabell a leader for this 2026 Horns commit class?
Well, he's been there a bunch, including their big junior day in January. And I talked to him after he left campus. He said, we're going to get a lot of these guys. I know he's in the middle of it, building relationships with a lot of Texas's top targets. And then when these prospects see 5-star quarterback Diabell committed to Texas, they want to play with a guy of that caliber.
All right. On3 had a huge rankings update that dropped on Monday. You guys can go check that out on the front page of on3.com. This affected the Texas class. We just mentioned Diabell, but also a couple of their key targets. Felix Ojo. He was a number 19 ranked offensive tackle. He has now moved up to number 3 in the country. Felix Ojo, a big mover, but where did the Longhorns stand with him?
Yeah, we got a chance to see Felix Ojo a couple times live since his junior season at the Navy All-America Bowl, then again at the Dallas Under Armour camp. Terrific in both settings, showing high upside. Offensive line has been a position of emphasis every single cycle since Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, and company got to Austin. We see it resonating on the field, and they need to keep it rolling with guys like Felix Ojo. My on-3 RPMs already on the burnt orange for Felix Ojo. Now, they got some competition. I view Ohio State as their biggest competition, but Michigan, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, some of them in play, Florida, Notre Dame, some outliers in that recruitment. But I love where Texas stands for Felix Ojo. They have Diabell in the fold. Now can they go get their 5-star offensive lineman to protect him? I think they ultimately will.
Ojo's the number 3 ranked offensive tackle in America, and the number 4 ranked offensive tackle is Cody Green. Now, he's committed to Oregon, but Steve, it seems like the Horns, there's some rumors here. Are they going to be able to flip Green from Oregon?
Well, Cody says it's going to be tough for any program to flip him from Oregon, but the school that's going to have the best shot to do it is Texas. Texas offered last month. He's excited about that opportunity. He has set an official visit to Texas for the weekend of June 13th. And he wants to get around the program, learn more about it. He'll be at Oregon the weekend of June 6th. So Dan Lanning and company will be working to get that official visit shut down. But Texas is alive for Cody Green. They have a pulse, and we'll see what kind of move they can make this spring into the summer. They're the biggest threat.
Yeah, and it's early, so a lot of game left here to be played. Steve, Texas is hot on the trail right now. Who else are they making a move with?
Well, Texas is relevant with a lot of these prospects that are ranked in the top 30 of the On3 recruits player rankings. Number 1 ranked receiver Tristan Keys. They're maybe not in the forefront of that recruitment, but still one that he is keeping a keen eye on at this point in his process. Same goes with the number 1 linebacker in the country, Isaiah Williams. Texas recently offered him, and I look for them to find a way onto his visit list here in the near future. Luke Waffle is an edge rusher from New Jersey. He says Texas is one of the programs that he's talking to the most. On three's number 2 ranked tight end Mark Bowman. Chad Simmons had the news. Official visits to Texas June 6th, Georgia June 13th, and Oregon June 20th. Right now we have Texas in the 3 hole, but they'll have a chance to make a move. They're in there battling Alabama and others for 4-star running back Xavier Crowell. So look, Texas, number 1 ranked recruiting class in the country and on 3 in this 2025 cycle. They're taking their time. They're being diligent. They don't want a bunch of early commitments so people can just come in and flip their guys. They like to be the ones with the spatula out at the end. They were that in 2025. If they put together anywhere close to the kind of season that they had last year, this coming year, they're in it for a lot of guys, and Texas is going to be one of those programs that closes with a furious strong ending again.
Let's talk Michigan Wolverines recruiting because, Steve, we got some 5-star buzz. The Wolverines have been red hot on the trail really since the flip of Bryce Underwood. They have not cooled off, and in this video, we are only talking 5-star targets. Let's start with Tristan Keys. He's got his official visits for the summer, but he made an important unofficial visit. He locked it in to Michigan. Are Wolverines now in the mix for 5-star wide receiver Tristan Keys?
Yeah, he tells me he's going to be at Michigan on April 5th. They're a program that seems to be rising some with Tristan Keys, the newly minted number 1 receiver in the land on 3. But I think they got to make a move on some other programs. Alabama and Tennessee, I view at the forefront of that recruitment. LSU is in the middle of it. Auburn, Ole Miss. Texas A&M is one that's probably in that top 3 with Alabama and Tennessee. And you also have the Longhorns in there. But he's given Michigan some time, wants to get up there and see Ann Arbor. And we'll see if the Wolverines can make a late move with him like they did with the Ty Haywood in the cycle before.
All right, well, we got more 5-star news I want to cover. Carter Meadows is an absolute monster out of Washington, D.C., newly minted 5-star here at On3. E.J. Holland is reporting that he's going to be in Ann Arbor March 21st. So that being said, now that he's 5-star status, we want to kind of focus in here. Where does Michigan stand in this recruitment?
Well, I think they're near the top of the list. Carter Meadows is also a 3.9 GPA kid. He's finishing out his basketball season before he hits the road for these spring visits. And I think Michigan's one of the front runners. Certainly Penn State is another program he's high on. In Ohio State, there's a great deal of intrigue with the Buckeyes. Then you got Northwestern, Stanford, North Carolina, South Carolina being a few others that are doing a good job in the Carter Meadows recruitment. But Michigan is one of the early favorites going into the spring. He'll take officials in the summer and then decide going into his senior year.
Yeah, a recruitment that we're going to be talking a lot more about as the spring and summer go on. Now, we can't talk 5-star buzz without talking Jackson Cantwell and Savion Hyder. Let's start with Jackson Cantwell. You had a recent conversation with him. How do you think the Wolverines are faring so far in this recruitment?
Well, he's going to get up there on spring break and watch them have a spring practice. He was there in December visiting with the program. And Michigan's one that's slowly been rising behind the scenes. There's been a lot of Georgia and Oregon smoke as of late. But he loves the style of play at Michigan, the offensive line-driven football team. They've won a couple Joe Moore awards. All 6 head coaches and his finalists went and saw him when they were on the road last month. And he really enjoyed talking football with an O-line guy. Sharon Moore is how he described him. And he's building a great relationship with offensive line coach Grant Newsome. That spring practice visit's going to be big. Look for him to put out his official visits in the very near future. Michigan will be on that list as well. Still trying to make up ground on the Ducks and Bulldogs. You got Mizzou in there as well. Ohio State, Miami, Georgia, Oregon, Michigan. I think we just mentioned all 6. But Michigan's in the middle. I literally think they're in the middle of this recruitment. We'll see if they can get up towards the top with these next 2 visits.
All right. How about Savion Hyder? Are they more towards the top of that recruitment?
I think they lead that recruitment, but Georgia has been gaining ground. He's been to Georgia several times, including earlier this month. He's been there 4 times total and is really getting to know Coach Crawford, Coach Smart, that program, the running back history. But it's still Michigan setting the pace, talking to his family, talking to him at various points in the last month, from the relationship with Tony Alford to what Michigan offers on and off the field to the offense to Sharon Moore. Michigan's the leader. but Georgia, Tennessee, and Ohio State round out the Final Four. He's going to take some visits in the spring. Georgia on the radar for one. Tennessee's definitely getting one. They want to get to Ohio State. So this recruitment still got some moving parts to it, but I like where Michigan stands right now.
Let's talk Ohio State Buckeyes recruiting. And the defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes are buzzing for some 5-star recruits. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you, Steve, about a commitment that they've had since 2023. 5-star wide receiver Chris Henry Jr. I noticed over the weekend he took any form of Ohio State commitment out of his socials. He still has the commitment graphic up, but I do believe he's deleted some photos on Instagram and Twitter as well. So how do you consider his commitment to Ohio State? I haven't been able to ask you this question yet in the 2026 cycle officially. So I just want to ask you, where do you consider Chris Henry's commitment with Ohio State?
Well, he's been committed to Ohio State since July 2023. And when you talk to people around Ohio State, Oregon, USC, some of these contenders, a lot of the feedback is that Ohio State's going to be tough to beat in the end. But he's going through his process, taking visits, went to Oregon again, went to USC earlier this month. We'll take an official to those two programs and Miami. But Ohio State, the way they prepare their receivers to hit the ground running in the NFL, and a lot of their wide receivers that have come out of Columbus, mentored by Brian Hartline, are among the best wideouts in the NFL. They're ready to play on Sunday. It's going to be up to these other programs to prove that they could do the same for Chris Henry Jr. So Ohio State, they get the last official visit the weekend of June 20th as well. I think everybody else is fighting uphill right now.
Do you believe that this recruitment is comparable to Jeremiah Smith?
I don't think so. I think that Jeremiah Smith was treated as a generational football player all the way up until the end of his process. And teams were making it very interesting at the end with the potential opportunity that he would have had off the field from an earnings standpoint. I don't know if that's going to be fully what this recruitment is, but certainly Ohio State's going to have to battle to keep Chris Henry.
Okay. All right. So let's move from Chris Henry Jr. to Jackson Cantwell, the 5-star offensive tackle. How important is Cantwell to Ohio State this cycle after missing on Jordan Seaton 2 years ago and then David Sanders last cycle?
Well, Ohio State had one of the best offensive lines in college football this past year. It's one of the calling cards of their program. And they want to hit big at that position this cycle. Obviously, they've had some changes. Justin Fry went to the NFL, to the Arizona Cardinals, and you have Tyler Bowen coming in. He's trying to hit the ground running. Had a great reputation as an offensive line coach at Penn State, where he recruited and coached up guys like Olu Fasano. And he is out there working the phone lines right away with top targets for Ohio State. Guys like Adam Guthrie, Maxwell Riley, Sam Greer from in-state, but certainly Jackson Cantwell said that he's been talking to Tyler Bowen a lot lately. There's not one offensive line recruit that's going to make or break this Buckeyes recruiting class, but certainly landing capable, high-end, high-potential guys will continue to be crucial for Ohio State in this class, so they won't have to lean on the transfer portal and they can continue to develop guys within their program.
All right, last question before we get out of this Ohio State segment. What are the Buckeyes doing at quarterback this cycle? They do not have a commitment at the position yet.
Well, I think a guy that's really starting to rise up the board for them is Bo Bentley out of Salina, Texas. He was a big riser for us in the latest On3 player rankings, moving up into the top 50. And he's got a visit to Ohio State set for March 19th. He's going to be back at Oklahoma in March. Then he's got LSU, Florida State, Georgia Tech also on the list for visits. Texas Tech is a contender, but Ohio State recently offered. That relationship's building. He's going to go see what it's all about in Columbus.
Let's talk a little Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting. Bama had one commitment heading into the weekend. They now have 3. They were unranked in the 2026 rankings. They're now number 11 class in the country. And Alabama is in great shape for several elites in the 2026 class. Steve, walk us through a couple of these top targets.
Well, they're hoping in the near future to land offensive lineman Bear McWhorter out of the Peach State. Bear McWhorter going to announce his college decision this week, and Alabama is one of the favorites, if not considered the favorite. But Michigan and Florida are a couple of the other programs that are trying to give Bear McWhorter a lot to think about and change that narrative. Alabama has also started to trend on the on-3 RPM for cornerback Jordan Edmonds, another player from the Peach State that has been speaking highly of Alabama as of late. In this new on-3 player ranking update, there are a lot of Crimson Tide targets in the top 30 that Alabama's in a great spot to get an official visit for and lead for some of these guys. Five-star offensive tackle Manny Iannacho is not one that they lead for, but they are in the middle of it, and it's been a fluid leaderboard. Georgia, Oregon, Maryland, some of those programs that have been jockeying musical chairs in that lead position. But Alabama, Tennessee is a couple of the programs that are still in play for him. Top-ranked receiver Tristan Keys, I think Alabama's in the lead group following a January visit with Tennessee and Texas A&M. He's got several other contenders. The number one linebacker in the country, Isaiah Williams, he has an official visit set to Alabama for June 6th. They're one of the front runners in that recruitment for Isaiah Williams. Anthony Jones is the number one player in the state, one of the top edge rushers in the country. I think Alabama is the program to beat. Auburn and Texas A&M, top three for me, in my opinion, in that recruitment. You have Xavier Crowell. He's a running back from in-state. Jackson High, reclassified from 2027 to 2026. His official visit for Alabama is set for June 20th. Alabama is the leader, in my opinion. Auburn, Florida State, Georgia, Texas, some of the other programs that are still in the mix there. And then you have Brandon Arrington, cornerback recruit, visited Alabama earlier this month, said that Alabama led coming out of the visit, but they're still going to have to battle Oregon, Texas A&M, and USC. It's been a very fluid recruitment. All those programs have probably led at one point or another. Alabama is the only one of those programs right now that does not have an official visit locked in. But as you can tell, Alabama's in on some of the best prospects in the country. They're at the top of the list for some of their favorite prospects in 2026, and it looks like they have a chance to really keep it rolling on the trail in the near future. And that will do it for today's episode of the Wiltfong Whiparound. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit like and subscribe to the On3 Recruits page so you're up to date on the latest and best information from the trail. We'll see you next time on the Wiltfong Whiparound.